CJ Stroud era has begun, and we got some cuts, some surprising ones, some ones that maybe should have happened sooner, and some ones that should maybe happen tomorrow. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah, it's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop. Won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube.
Welcome to the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Appreciate everyone for coming through. It's the number one place to get the pulse of what's going on with the Texans digitally, radio-wise, 10 to 2 Odyssey app on Sports Radio 610. Talk to players, coaches, etc. So be sure to like, subscribe, right along. A lot of people haven't given a rat's you-know-what about the Texans the last few years, rightfully so. Probably shouldn't have even really before that when King Bill and the POS Jack Easterby were here because, the ceiling was limited. But there's some excitement. How much excitement and how much tangible excitement is TBD, but we've got some news to react to here inside the locker room. Get the comments in. If they're in the flow of everything, then we will keep those we will put the comments up as they go. If they're good and they're not in the flow, we'll get to them a little bit later. So there we go. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Number one question, people asking this: who's the new number 0? Joe Blue asked it. Forever Royal asked it. We'll get into the Desmond King release. I think Will Anderson should take number 0. Is that too extreme? Is it too extreme for Will Anderson to take number 0? I think he'd look like a beast in it. I know some people have gotten used to 51. I just don't think 51 is tight enough for Will Anderson. I think he needs to stick out. I feel like you can hide with 51. I didn't even think I was going to start out with this take, but hot take, I think Will Anderson should take number 0. What say you? Put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. What say you? Do you think Will Anderson should take number 0? I think he should. I think Will Anderson should take number 0. Alan asks what a POS is. POS is person of service. That's Jack Easterby. That is a person of service. Shout out to Ruben 713 Sports. My guy, my boy. I love me some Ruben. Shout out to Ruben doing his thing. Be sure and follow his channel as well. And Gilmore brings it up. No spamming. It's a fact. No spamming. You start spamming, you get cut. You get cut. Nose meets corner when you start cutting. I'm with this Will Anderson. Will Anderson needs to rock number 0. I'm actually going to put this as a question right now. I'm actually going to put this on a question on Twitter right now. I'm going to go ahead and present, share screen, Twitter. Here we go. Twitter. All right, let's do this. Let's do this together. Should Will Anderson rock number 0 now that Desmond King is gone? Put it at yes or no. Yes. And then NO. There we go. Posted at Landry Locker on Twitter. There you go. My co-host John Lopez had another idea, which I thought was just silly. We've seen the way that the Cowboys have rocked number. Someone says he isn't allowed. I guess he isn't allowed to rock 0. Is that right? Man, shoot. If that's the case, then Dom. But defensive, let's look up defensive line rules. Jersey numbers. Might have already gotten exposed as a dummy. Oh, he can't rock it. But where is 0 even in the equation? Trying to check this out. Quarterback 0 to 19, wide receivers, tight ends. So let's see. Defensive lineman can rock 50 to 97 and 90 to 99. Is that the rule? Okay. Might have to delete that poll right up the top. How about that? Can't even do that. Exposure right there. Exposure. Right there. It didn't even go through. All right. Regardless, should Will Anderson change his number? That's a question. If he's not allowed to, he's not allowed to. But Justin, hey, look out for me all you want. I'm gonna say some dumb-ish. Everybody knows that. I'm definitely gonna say some dumb-ish. I guess it didn't even go through on the Twitter. So I guess I got lucky. I guess it's just all the YouTube that actually sees that. So there you go. So didn't even press go. Number 9, by the way, Will Anderson, number 9. If Brevin Jordan gets cut, that's going to be Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz actually tried to buy that. So I didn't even tweet and delete it. For some reason, I didn't even press send. That's pretty crazy, but I would tweet delete. No, I didn't even go through. How about that? How about that? So only y'all think I'm stupid. I'm not the stupid one. But Desmond King, we'll get to in a little bit. Texans Cap's actually going to join me in this. We're going to talk about the start of the CJ Stroud era. We're going to hear from DeMeco Ryans. We're also going to talk about how they should handle Kenyon Green. We've had a lot of conversation about Kenyon Green. How should they handle Kenyon Green and the decision that they got to make tomorrow? And would it be better for the Texans to perhaps move past that? Don't know. Can't even keep up with all these jersey numbers. Some people are saying you're allowed to do that. Who knows? Some people asking about Roy Lopez. Stay tuned. We'll get into that. But first, I want to talk about a very enlightening thing that happened, like as I was getting ready for this whole thing. And a lot of you can see the JJ Watt thing, the jersey. It's going up. Like it's going up here. I'm getting it like professionally hung, because what happens is, like in the perfect situation, like in the room, it would look good here, right? Like it would look good here. But when I'm actually broadcasting, it would look dumb. So we want to put it here perfectly. It's very heavy. It's very professionally done. Shout out to my boy Kevin Draper for the hookup on this. It's heavy. So want to put it like right here. Got someone coming in from it. You can see this. JJ actually sent this to me. I didn't ask for this. I didn't know anything about it. JJ, thanks for the laughs. And support, signed a loyal loophole. And there's a picture of me and JJ that I put on the frame. So I'm going to put that up there. So if you see that and you're new here and you're like, man, that's a tacky ass room. No, it's about to get straight. That's the reason that I've had that blank the whole time, because I knew it was going to get framed. I went and scooped it up yesterday. One of the best frame jobs I've ever seen, quite frankly. And shout out to my boy Draper for getting that straight. So we got a lot of Kenyon Green takes. We'll get to the Kenyon Green stuff in a while. Look at John. Listen to John Garcia. You about to be in time. You better if it was autographed by Watt. What? Right there, brother. Landry. Thanks for all the laughs and support. JJ Watt, loyal loophole. Come on, brother. You think I'm going to frame a non-autographed jersey? What the hell's wrong with you? Come on, man. Come on, John. Jeez. Put you in timeout pretty soon, man, with that. Come on, man. The hell you think? You think I'm hanging a non-frame jersey? Come on, brother. Come on, John. It's all good. I'm just messing with you, sir. But I want to get back on task. I'm having a good time tonight. The baby's doing good. The Texans are making moves. We're into the regular season. We're through the preseason. We're through the slums. But I'm back tomorrow. I had to take 10 days off. I wanted to go back today, but I had to take 10 days off. They don't think I take enough time off. So the due date was originally the 20th, and I was going to be off because Lopez is off later this week. I was going to be off a certain amount of days. However, it happened earlier. So yeah, I'm back tomorrow for sure. Oh, he's trolling me. So I jumped off sides. Call me Clowny. So we'll get into the cuts, but I want to talk about something that was really enlightening for me. And I think I actually want to know what y'all would have done in my situation. Like what you folks would have done in my situation. So full disclosure, this channel started like as it's an independent thing. It helps the radio thing, but it's an independent thing. So all the thumbnails, I didn't have thumbnails last year. I didn't know how to do them, all that. The main goal was to be consistent, but I make the thumbnails. I make the headlines. I make the content, all that. This is all me. So as I was making the thumbnail for this, and what a thumbnail is, and I'm sitting here acting like an absolute jackass and not really explaining myself very well. And yes, be sure to hit the like button. But a thumbnail is basically like the picture that you see when you come to this. And when you make that, you want it to be relevant. You want it to be the thing that matters most and the thing that like represents what's the most significant visual of what we're going to talk about. And what we're talking about right now is roster cuts, right? We're talking about roster cuts. We're talking about the Texans cutting guys, and we're talking about the Texans making moves. So I made the headline. I made the title. I talked about, you can already see the title, breaking down Texans surprise cuts heading toward end of roster completion and start of the Stroud era. So the headline was fine. The description was fine. Then I'm making the thumbnail and I'm sitting there and I'm like, damn, do I put Caserio on there or do I put DeMeco Ryans on there? Who's calling the shots here? Who's the face of the decisions that the Texans make right now? And you can say it's a team thing, but I'm not gonna put two guys there. You can see I decided on DeMeco. I think this is DeMeco's squad. I think DeMeco and Caserio work together. I'm not saying this to belittle Nick Caserio, but I think I don't know that it's telling because I've kind of felt this way for a while, but I feel like it was very easy to say, all right, let's put DeMeco. What would y'all have done? Put it in the comments. Be sure to like too when you go back. But what would y'all have done? If y'all were making a thumbnail, what would y'all have done? Would you have put Caserio or DeMeco? And Roberto Cantu says, here you go with the drama. What's the drama? That's a real question, buddy. I'm not sitting here saying that Nick Caserio is getting fired. There are some coaches that are the faces of the decisions their organizations make. Some GMs are there. What's the drama, Robert? What would you have done? Let me know. Let's make it drama-free. Let me know. I'm going to sit here. I'm actually, you know what? I'm going to sip a little Love Street, and I'm going to sit here. I want you to tell me, brother. Tell me the drama-free. Give me your thumbnail, because I have to make a thumbnail. So tell me, Cantu. There you go, Robert Cantu. Giving you a chance. Not picking on you. I'm just asking you, what's the drama? I thought this was DeMeco's thing from the very beginning. Tell me what you would have done on the thumbnail. Would you put the Texans logo? Give me that, sir. Ma'am, whatever. Can't see because it's an R logo. Letter. Give it to me. What would you have done? Robert can too. I'm waiting for you, man. Let's go. It's not drama. I think it's a legit question. Who would you have put? Sean says DeMeco just because he's nicer to look at. What kind of stuff is going on in here, my man? JJ says DeMeco answering questions about Green was hard to watch. He just kept saying he was battling through, which means it's all good. Robert says if I had to venture a guess, I would say DeMeco and coaches gave their input to Caserio. I'm not sitting here saying Caserio is neutered. Robert Cantu says thumbnail was perfect. It doesn't matter who was on it. What? How can a thumbnail be perfect if it doesn't matter who's on it? Shout out to Robert. Robert, thanks for coming through, man. Much respect to you, man. We're just having some fun here. I'm not putting Robert in timeout. Robert's straight. He's good. Tyson says Hannah makes his cuts. Come on, brother. Come on, brother. Let's talk about the cuts, though. I want to bring in Texans Cap. He has a good grasp of what goes on with the cuts. Cap, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm great. I
had to like dust off all my equipment. I had to make sure everything was working right.
Yeah, it looks like it's looking pretty good, man.
Yeah,
Let's get into these cuts.
Yeah.
And what they mean and looking forward to the next moves. Devin says just got up in here. Appreciate you, Devin. What got you mad? Nothing. I'm not mad. I'm trying to figure out.
That's not Landry mad.
Yeah, it's not mad. That's just me greeting, quite honestly. But Cap, let's start right off the top with the one that we kind of thought would have happened a long time ago.
Yep.
The Christian Kirksey cut. I kind of feel like this just kind of worked out perfect. And I don't want to sit here and say, it's a good thing when someone gets hurt. But I think Christian Kirksey was going to get hurt no matter what. Or not hurt. I think he was going to get cut no matter what. And I think the fact that he got hurt allowed them to have a clear visual which they probably already envisioned, that the linebacker position would look a lot more athletic without him. And this one kind of just seemed like a no-brainer. Although I think the only way you could qualify this as a surprising cut, in my opinion, is the fact that it didn't happen sooner and it happened this late in the process.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think, we had many discussions about this early in the offseason. I thought he was going to be a cap casualty at the beginning of the year, and it's kind of just lingered. And I don't know if it's more of a mentor type role kind of thing for keeping him around, or what the reasoning was, or just to make sure that the young guys that they brought in and the new signings with Perryman and the new draft picks were going to sort itself out. So I think, like you said, it was perfect, kind of a perfect storm. He ends up injured, unfortunately for him, misses a lot of time. Therefore, Toto can play, Blake Cashman can play, and then start to see, okay, we got something with these five guys here. And it puts us in a good position to move on from Kirksey. And I view it from that aspect. And then I think this is just a straight up cap casualty at the end of the day as well. This team is, I know they have $8, $9, $10 million in cap space right now, but when that switch flips next week to the different accounting, it's going to get pretty tight. So I view it as a partial cap casualty, cash savings, and then partial, he got pushed out. I mean, it's hard to make the roster from the sideline, and then you got four young players that are doing well and showing out and then showing that he's replaceable. So it just kind of made sense on all fronts.
Now, the one that I guess would qualify as a surprise is Desmond King. Now, I was looking, like, if we were talking about like corner cuts that would maybe generate this reaction, I was kind of looking in the direction at perhaps Shaq Griffin. Shaq Griffin ended up we think making the roster, but when you have another guy in Thomas who they like in the slot, and you have Desmond King, or not Desmond King, you now have Tank Dell returning punts. This one, I could have gone either way on it, but when you look at it, actually might make a little bit more sense than your initial reaction would have warranted.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at first, and the more I kind of stewed on it a bit, like you, I think this is definitely more so of a cap casualty than anything. Um, but I think there was some other lingering things there, like you said. The return duty showed that could be handled by other players. Tavier Thomas is a very capable slot nickel quarterback, so I think put all those pieces together, and it makes sense. And there was rumors of King having some attitude issues last year. Maybe I don't know if that carried over this year or not, but I think at the end of the day, this is more of a cash and cap thing and a little bit of performance related because he still was a solid depth cornerback. He could play a
No
little bit on
doubt.
the
And last year he played on the outside when
he could play a little bit. He could play on the outside and on the bench, and he could play in the nickel. So, given that he was still healthy, he was playing relatively well through preseason, gives me the impression that this is more cap related than performance related.
Yeah. And I don't, I look at it as the cornerback depth's pretty good. Steven Nelson came in and did probably surpassed what you really thought would happen. He's just been solid. So, this is just kind of one of those things where like the depth kind of plays out. But that was definitely one of the more surprising. Roy Lopez, there's going to be an injury settlement. There seems to be. This one had as much to do. I think this one had to do with two things. I would say number one, the injury. Getting hurt hurt him. And number two, Kurt Hinish just for some reason he just plays good in games. Like I don't know.
Him and Khalil Davis both.
Yeah, and then you had the guys behind Roy Lopez that looked really good. This is a tough one, but I look at it as like you had some guys behind him that played really well, and then you had the injury. It was just kind of a perfect bad storm for Roy Lopez.
Yeah, I tweeted about it about a week ago that those three players would be vying for the last one or two defensive tackle spots. And if Roy Lopez was healthy, would he have still be on this roster? It's hard to say. All three of them were pretty dang equal in their performance, but this is a tough business. Injuries happen, and when it does happen, this is the result. He's going to get waived with the injury designation. He'll go back on the IR the following day, followed by, like you said, an injury settlement, and he'll be on his way, and he'll probably get picked up somewhere else, 3 or 4 weeks into the season, and he'll be somewhere else playing. So it's just more so just the nature of the business, the timing of the injury, just kind of rough for him. But Kurt Hinish, like you said, has been playing well. Khalil Davis has been showing out as well. And I think they are just as solid players as Roy Lopez is when it comes to depth at the defensive tackle position.
Yeah. And I think they got like really good top end depth. So we'll see. Yeah. We were talking about, they're going to keep, the numbers and all that. So there was that going down the list, and we'll bring it all back and try to summarize it, but just going through the cuts right now. Mason Schreck out.
Yep.
I wonder, because after the cuts are made, I don't want to say like you kind of see the light, but I've talked about this before, like throughout the process. I wonder if they're just going to consider Beck their third tight end, and he can play fullback too, because they're not going to have a fullback a lot of the time. So I wonder if, naturally we're looking at Beck and we're saying, okay, this guy's a fullback, but really like his core position is tight end. And a lot of time, like when he's going in motion, he's going to be a tight end. So I almost wonder if it's going to look like they only have two tight ends, but really they have three tight ends and they have one who can do fullback things, which is what most teams in the NFL have, because a large portion of teams don't even carry a fullback. So that's basically what they do. The other thing is, and this is something that we'll get into with Kenyon Green, Mason Schreck is solid here. Like he's shown some signs. He knows what they want to do and yada, yada, yada. But a lot of times, like when you're sitting number 2 at waivers and you're talking about a guy like that, you feel like, and really most competent front offices should be able to go find someone that has the same quality of player as Mason Schreck, and maybe someone who can even do a little bit more.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I wrote today on the newsletter, that, Beck,
Tell the people where to go for that.
capandtrade.football.
Don't sound too unexcited about it. Good
got
Lord.
a-
That's the worst plug I've ever heard.
Got a new domain set up for it, so now it's a much more official name. So yeah, capandtrade.football. Make sure you subscribe to the
Capandtrade.football. Capandtrade.football. There's a little exciting one for you.
Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much what I wrote, that I think Beck is kind of your hybrid fullback / tight end. Going to be, obviously Catariano and Schultz in there. And then I put TBA as a potential another tight end, meaning same thing as you mentioned, looking in the free agent market, looking at the waiver wire with the Texans being at number 2 slot. Maybe they find another player there, but someone like Schreck, might be a player. Dalton Keene as well might be a player that they re-sign if Keene gets released. Maybe get re-signed back to the practice squad, and they have familiarity and they would offer depth from that perspective. But this tight end group, man, I know you've been talking about it all training camp. This is probably the weakest position group from a depth standpoint. I don't know that. I think Brevin Jordan might be on the same path that Roy Lopez is on. He hasn't practiced yet. He's still been on the sides, working on his own. I don't know that he is a player that they want to carry on to the 53, then put on IR to have him eligible for return, or if it's just a wave injured and let him go on about his way, his same path. So it's just a very, very lacking depth, and they're going to have to do one thing or another. But I think that's definitely your 3 pieces is Beck, Catariano, and Schultz. And then, like you said, Beck floats between that H-back, fullback, tight end kind of role. He's been kind of all over the place. And then they'll have a few options on the practice squad to assist as well.
What are the jersey number rules for Will Anderson? He can't rock 51 or 0.
Oh gosh, I don't even know. They've changed it all up.
I started it off with a poll question, and then someone said he can't rock 0. I can't keep up with the rules.
I'll have to look.
If he can, I would be down with it.
Says linebacker. Well, is he a linebacker?
Is he a linebacker, DN? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's 0 to 59 or 90 to 99. He could rock. If he's listed as linebacker, it says they can. Oh, if defensive lineman is 50 to 79 and 90 to 99.
Okay.
So he can't if he's not a linebacker. So
let's just put him at linebacker.
Yeah, change the spot, and he can have 0.
Get him at 0. We'll see how that goes. Dalton Schultz is definitely getting number 9 if Brevin Jordan gets cut. Like, he tried to buy it from him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He told us earlier this week he tried to buy it. So there would be that. So we have the offensive line, Coward and Tyler Beach cut. No surprise there. I don't think that was anything. Those were kind of the blahs. And same thing with Darius Joyner. I didn't even pronounce his name right or spell his name right, but it doesn't matter. Peace out to him. I want to get into this situation that we talked about yesterday. It's been one of the most popular topics. What should be done with Kenyon Green? I got a lot of thoughts on this. I kind of gave them yesterday, like just to summarize before we really get into it. There's a couple of things. Number one, he's never going to validate being selected where he was in the draft. So if your goal and your mindset of keeping him around is, well, we drafted him at number 15, so we've got to give him a chance. I think you're fighting a losing battle because it's never going to happen. And you've seen teams like in the 3rd year give up on quarterbacks that were drafted a year before. So you saw Zach Wilson and you've seen Trey Lance. Like, they've basically given up on the notion that those guys are franchise guys. So that's the first thing. I think it's a losing battle to approach it that way. The other thing is the bar is not that high for what he's competing with. You're talking about a guy who didn't play a offensive snap last year, I don't believe, and was a special teams guy. and he looks like a clear upgrade, and you gave him every opportunity to win this gig. And sometimes it just takes a change of scenery. Like, regardless of what we think about Kenyon Green and what we think he can be, like, he seems out of shape. He seems to have a strength issue. He seems to just struggle overall, and he seems to lack confidence if you're just being like a body language expert. So how do you turn that, like, all those problems around? Sometimes it's impossible when he's pulling up in the same parking lot as he's been pulling up to for the last year plus, when he's going into the same locker room, when he's like around the same people, when he's getting the same advice. There's a chance Kenyon Green, 2 years from now, we look back and say, man, he ended up being a quality guard, and he never really probably should have been selected top 15, but he ended up being a quality guard. There just seems to be enough context clues and enough tangible clues to believe and think that maybe that's just not going to be here. What do you think should be done with Kenyon Green?
I think, what, I don't know. I'm curious of what the scope of his injury is. And DeMeco kind of mentioned that he's been playing through some injuries, and he grabbed his left arm after he got just beat down by Breesy on a swim move. And so I don't know what his health perspectives were like, but let's just say he is dealing with some injury. Then I think you either put him on IR for four games, or he's game day inactive, or maybe he's active, but he's not starting. But I think he needs to be pulled back a little bit, let him mentally reset, and try to figure his way out through this little hole that he's in. I don't know that putting him in right now, it just seems like his confidence is shot.
No, it almost seems cruel. Like, I'm not being dramatic or anything. Like, it almost seems cruel.
Yeah, I don't think this is one of those throw him to the fire kind of situations. I don't think it's a sink or swim situation. I think this is you pull back, mental reset for 3 or 4 weeks, let him get back healthy, whether that's on the active roster, on IR, start the reps back over in practice, start from 101 foundation and just kind of rework back up and see if he can find his way back onto the starting five by the middle of the season. And if that's not the case, he's not playing much this year, then you just go through the year with him as depth, and then you just reevaluate the situation in the next offseason. But right now he should not be playing as a starting offensive guard. I mean, maybe he comes in on special teams or something, helps out in that front, but he's not a starter right now. It doesn't need to be a starter. Something needs to change for him. I don't know if a change of scenery is what he needs yet, but he needs a mental reset. I mean, he's just not there. He's still young. I mean, he's 21?
Yeah. And I don't think that it's like completely crazy that he becomes like a good or a serviceable guard in the NFL. I just don't think it's anytime soon. Like, I don't think they're going to throw him out there and he plays his way into that in week 8. And the other thing is this, like, I can kind of like relate to this because there were 3 times where I got the most grounded when I was a kid. And it had to do with me not giving my mom the note that the teacher wrote home. Back in the days when teachers couldn't just text or email or anything,
they pinned it to the back of your shirt.
They would write a note and they would say, all right, give this to your mom. And multiple times. And the crazy thing is, this is how hard it was to like get a hold of each other back in those days. Shout out to all my millennials. Like, I just walked across a field to go to school. My mom taught at the middle school. I'm leaving the elementary school. And I held off like 3-4 days and didn't hand my mom the note. But the reality was that I was going to get in trouble no matter what. I was really just delaying the trouble. And the trouble actually got kind of worse the more I drug it on. If Nick Caserio is functioning right now under the mindset that I drafted this guy number 15 overall last year, and I just don't want to cut him now, and I want to see what goes on, I think he's basically doing what I did in elementary school, and he's basically just holding on to the note and like just delaying the inevitable when it comes to Kenyon Green. Like, you're going to cut Kenyon Green eventually, I think. I mean, and if you don't, you're still going to have made a pick where people say, how the hell did they draft Kenyon Green right there at 15? So I don't know how front offices think about this. And I also think the fact that they let him start with no questions asked for damn near a month, like he was getting first team reps. And there were times where Malik Collins was just completely beating his ass.
Yep.
And the crazy thing is, I don't want to throw anything out there and say that this is what he does, but I'm not making this up myself. It's not just my observation. Like, there's people who know the game a lot better than me out there that are watching this same thing. It seems like every time he gets his ass whooped, he grabs something on his body.
That's a confidence thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw it multiple times with Collins. Like, there was a practice where we said on the air, man, he got his ass whooped by Malik Collins, and he walked off grabbing his shoulder to the point where I thought, okay, he's done for the rest of the day. Next thing I know, I look up, he's out there for team. So I just don't know. Like, sometimes you just need a change of scenery, and that might be what he needs.
Yeah. And I mean, it's definitely not from a release or a cut standpoint this year, just with the way the salary cap ramifications are from that, but it's something that could be evaluated next offseason. Maybe you find a trade partner to move on if that's what the direction is. But yeah, he's just not where he needs to be upstairs, and that's why I think the mental reset, set him down, and some players are going to handle that appropriately and come out on the better end of it. If Kenyon Green's that kind of player, I mean, that's how we'll find out. And he may not. He may take to a benching situation the complete opposite and just never make it back, and that's just something the team's going to have to see how he reacts. But yeah, I'd be shocked if he's out there week 1 at left guard.
Yeah, and I mean, they waited till the final preseason game
to give Dieter some snaps.
How shocked would you be if they cut him tomorrow?
Oh, there's no way. No way.
No chance. How shocked would you be if they trade him tomorrow?
That I wouldn't shock me, because I think Caserio is pretty unpredictable with those kind of things, and the fact that he is not going to hang on to a player just to justify himself selecting him where he selected him. So I don't think a trade would be out of left field by any means, but a cut, no way that's happening.
What are the surprise cuts that you look at tomorrow? Like, what would surprise you the most that's realistic?
Well, I think the King one, which already we know about, was the biggest probably surprise for me. I really don't have too many. I'm curious to see if they carry 5 defensive ends with Dylan Horton, or if there's some kind of magical injury that he ends up getting a redshirt year out of it. The Roy Lopez one was kind of a change up. I'm curious to see how the cornerback room sorts itself out on the back end of the depth with Hallman and Dantzler, who they just signed, who had the interception at the end of the game. He was a very productive cornerback his first 2 years in Minnesota under Mike Zimmer, and then just the change of system, and he got injured last year. So
Mike Zimmer.
What's that?
It's a crazy SOB.
Yeah. So, I really don't have too many more surprise releases. I think King was the big one. And, I just kind of want to see how the offensive line interior sorts itself out. But I'm definitely curious how the safety, if they carry 5 with Graylin Arnold, or if they stick with 4, how the cornerback group sorts out. And then if they look at, like we talked about, the waiver wire, how the tight end situation is going to be the most fascinating one to see how that plays out.
I think it might just play out the way it is right now.
Yeah. And then, like, Thomas Booker, does he get wave injured because he's had his hand in a soft cast for I don't know how many weeks, or if he's
kind of over him.
Yeah, or if he makes it on to the first roster, and then is a designated for return kind of player. But
he's a lingerer.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect, but that dude is
the only other one that might surprise me would be Shaquille Griffin.
Yeah, but with King, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what makes
really happens.
Yeah, that really destroys your depth. if you move on from Griffin. So I really don't see too many more. Brandon Hill, he was a 7th rounder this year. Maybe he gets a red shirt. He's been injured. Garrett Wallow, I think he's probably hit the end of his road with Houston. And so that draft class is almost about done.
Yeah.
So,
Davis is hanging on now.
Yeah, the Steven Sims is the only other one, and I cannot find a way that he makes it onto this roster. Maybe something happens and they carry 7 wide receivers, and carry, like you talked about, a very light tight end group. And since with King being gone, maybe that helps Sims' case from a return duty standpoint. I'm not entirely sure if you want Tank Dell doing that 100% of the time, but wouldn't hurt my feelings one way or another. So that's some of the players that I'm kind of watching at this point to see what happens. Texans did not announce anything or nothing hit the waiver wire today from the Texans standpoint. So nothing's official yet. So it's all going to come down at 3 p.m. tomorrow, and it's going to be crazy.
So Blake Warren threw out Noah Brown would be a possible big name cut. I just don't. I'll be honest. I was actually going to bring something up like along those lines. I don't see any chance that Noah Brown's a cut because he can block and he's actually shown some flashes. Now, do you want Noah Brown to be one of your two best receivers? No, probably not. Like, I don't think the Cowboys did either last year, but situations allowed that. But I don't think Noah Brown would be. I do wonder, though, like, not necessarily a cut, but I think sometimes there's kind of a dead zone where you keep guys and then you wonder, like, all right, where does this guy fit in, like, as far as, like, actual contribution and stuff? I'm trying to figure out where Mechie fits in. And I know that Mechie's kind of a sensitive subject because obviously everything that he's been through, and he's a great dude and he sounds awesome. And, he's like one of the most charismatic. Like, when you actually meet with Mechie and talk to Mechie, you can feel the charisma, and he didn't sign up for what he went through last year. But I don't know how Mechie fits into what they're doing right now. When you factor in that they got Woods, they got Tank, they got Noah Brown, they got Nico. I don't think that they like cut Mechie or anything like that, but I don't know how he, like, if we're just like taking it a step further and going past, the deadline, I don't know how Mechie fits into what they're going to do and what they're going to plan on doing.
Yeah, given that Noah Brown's on a 1-year deal, I think Mechie might just be a player that's either inactive on game day or is going 10, 15, 20%.
And is fighting for his NFL life next year, where we kind of get past like the feel good story. Like, I think we get to where, like, much like you saw Ross Blacklock as a 2nd round pick get let go of in year 3. I think Mechie right now, it's like the grace period. And then next year, like at this time, when we're talking about this, it's like, did he make it or did he not? It's going to be make or break.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I think he just kind of hangs around this year. Still, at the end of the day, still acclimating back to football speed, football game life. You can practice all you want, but until you get more game, and he just needs more game reps. And so maybe he's a back half of the season guy that starts to see a little more playing time. But I think the first half of the season probably won't see a whole lot of him, but he'll be available, ready to go if somebody goes down.
What do you think about this? Name keeps coming up. What do you think about Dalton Reisner? I don't think a ton of him. I keep hearing, his name, and people are throwing it out there. To me, like, if you're going to go out there and find like an interior offensive lineman, I think it's going to be someone that most people have to like Wikipedia. Like, it's like, oh, let's see what this guy does and like figure it out. I don't like Dalton Reisner's out there for a reason. Like, and it goes back to like,
there's a very specific reason from what I hear.
Let's hear it.
I heard he is a terror in the locker room. Not a good teammate, not a good guy. I'd hate to disparage, and this is just what I hear. I'm not saying I've witnessed it firsthand or anything like that, but when you have a guy who was a 2nd round draft pick, who was not a great left guard, but was a solid player in Denver for 4 years, and is still unsigned to this day in a league that is deficient with offensive linemen, when you have a team like the Texans that are trotting out a Mike Dieter at left guard, there's a reason why he is not signed, and it's nothing to do with his talent. I'll just kind of leave it at that. So I would cancel him. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I would not have him on Houston's list of potential targets. I just don't think that's an option.
How does interior offensive lineman become like a bad locker room guy? That seems
It's weird. I mean, I right at the very first of free agency, I had messaged one agent asking me, because I was running some numbers past him, and I was like, hey, this is kind of where I have Risner at. Does this make sense? And he's like, he'll be lucky if he gets signed anywhere. I was like, oh, okay, well, what's going on there? And he's like, he's just not a good dude in the locker room, and a lot of teams are really frowned down on him. So it's wild to see someone of even a quality guard, a quality starting guard, not even an all-pro or anything like that, to be sitting out there as a free agent for this long. And so when that happens, there's a reason for it. It's not just teams have forgotten about him or anything like that. There's something to it, and it's probably more than I'm even know to speak on. But it's crazy. And I mean, if he wants a lot of money, maybe that may be another piece of it too, that he just has unrealistic contract expectations. And at this point of the season, he'll be lucky. He would have to agree to, vet minimum, maybe a couple million with some incentives, but there's just too many flags there from what I hear offline for why he's unsigned at this point for me to even think Houston would consider signing him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they get desperate. Who knows?
Hey, yeah, desperation can set in and cure all.
And desperation for the player too, where he kind of realizes, damn, there's some consequences for my actions, and we'll figure it out. Who knows? People bringing up Richie Incognito. I never heard really any locker room problems with Richie Incognito.
Yeah, the Steve Riley says, wasn't Reisner the guy who went off on Wilson on the sideline? Yeah, I mean I think that's just a piece of it, but yeah.
So I asked the question before you got in here. If you were doing a thumbnail and you were trying to make a face of the cuts, like the face of, and you can do both. So you don't even have to choose. But if you were doing like a thumbnail and you were doing like face of the cuts, would you pick DeMeco or would you pick Caserio?
Oh, shoot, man. I was going to say Caserio really quickly, and now I'm like questioning myself, but I would say Caserio more so than DeMeco. I do think it's a collaborative effort, and it's not Caserio dropping off.
But it's also a lot of his guys too. So like, if you're really like thinking about it, like it's like some of his guys you're having to get rid of, like Lopez and King and stuff.
But that's why I think.
Yeah, that's why I agree with you. Like that would be the case for it.
Yeah, and that's why I said back in the beginning, I don't think Caserio keeps ties back to the players that, oh man, I drafted this guy, he's got to stay. No, I think he's like, hey, if he needs to go, he needs to go, and that's that. And so it would have to be Caserio on the thumbnail for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're GM guy though. Let's be honest. Probably want to put like James Lipford on there or something like that
with his fantastic hair. Yeah.
What did you make of the whole process of the Stroud thing? Did you think it was handled perfectly? Did you think it was handled fine? Like, what did you think of like the whole?
I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't understand the need to just announce him early on in the process. I'm perfectly fine with the process that they went, that they said, let's get through preseason. Let's confirm everything up. Is he 99% chance he's going to be the starter guy? Probably so, but let's just go through our process. This is the process that they probably agreed to when they drafted him, is like, hey, we're not going to name anybody until we get all the way through preseason, and then we'll make our decision. They stuck to that, despite other teams making announcements very early on in the process. Hey, that's great. And maybe those teams identified that player needs that confidence boost to be named early in the process. Just me speculating. So, given how Stroud has always been very good at the podium, handling criticism, handling how if things don't work out the way they're supposed to work out, he's managed those things very well from a media response standpoint. So, I think it was perfectly fine the way it was handled. To be honest with you.
Yeah, and my thing is, I didn't. And by the way, Steve, appreciate you. I owe Cap a beer, or whatever he drinks. I can't even keep up with what he drinks. Probably like a Shirley Temple or something, with a kiss of vodka. But yeah, I appreciate you, Steve. I thought it was fine because they told you. Like, it would have been weird if they would have like kept the reps split and like kept it going.
It was
like,
clear as day.
But like they told you, they officially told you last night, but they told you before. Like he was getting the first team reps for, like, it's not like they said, all right, Davis, you start this game, and CJ, you start this game. Like it wasn't like Patriot paranoia type of stuff. Like it was there. And you saw CJ yesterday with the whole interview and stuff. He was like, when did you find out? Well, I'm going to keep that between myself. So I didn't necessarily like have a problem with like the whole way that it went down. I don't. The Tom Savage, like Deshaun Watson thing was corny to me, but I had no issue with it. I don't think he lost it. Like I don't think Davis was bad either. Like it was. Really, they told you as soon as they drafted a quarterback at 2.
Yeah, I think the likelihood of it happening after the draft, everybody just expected it. But once you saw after the New England game, and for folks, when we were at practice, it was clear after the New England game, Stroud was coming in with the ones every time during team drills at practice, at camp. There was no split reps. You saw all the reports. Today, Stroud's going out with the ones. Today, Stroud's going out the ones. And it just started stacking up. And at that point, it was an unofficial, he's the starter, but we'll wait. This is our process. This is what we have laid out as when we'll announce it. And they stuck with that process. So, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, and the other thing is we're kind of trying to figure out, like, how this team functions and how this organization functions, like with DeMeco. So we were kind of confused and we didn't know like how it was going to go down. So it was what it was. I had no problem with it. Do you feel like the way that I felt like the 49ers process, like the way in which the Trey Lance thing went down and the way the Zach Wilson thing went down, it's kind of, and we talked about this leading into the draft, like if you swing and miss, especially if you have extra compensation, if you swing and miss, and the Jets had extra compensation too because of the Jamal Adams trade. Mm-hmm. If you have extra comp, and the 49ers, you can say had extra compensation because they got 2/3 for Saleh and they got 2/3 for DeMeco and 2/3 for Mike McDaniel. So they got like 6 extra day 2 draft picks in the last 3 years. You swinging and missing for a quarterback is sometimes just kind of worth it, assuming that you coach well or you make good moves and like make good like general manager moves.
Yeah, I think with the rookie wage scale, it makes it much more palatable to move on from a quarterback after 2 years. If you just go back to the draft again. I mean, it's the opportunity, the cost to move on is nowhere where it was back in the mid 2000s when these quarterbacks were getting, 40, 50, $60 million guaranteed up front. So yeah, I'm with you. I think at this point, I mean, I think the process of how they got to trading up for Trey Lance was probably not the best, but they recognized the error, recognized that it's not going to work, and they moved on. I mean,
I also think they kind of tried to swing for the fences with him instead of just going with the Mac Jones thing. And you could almost make a case if they would have just gone with Mac, they might have a Super Bowl. Maybe would have had a Super Bowl, but I almost feel like they almost took it like a step further and swung for the fences. And I also think they covered their ass because no one wants to admit this because people hate running backs, but the Christian McCaffrey trade last year saved them from everything. Like the Christian McCaffrey trade, they didn't lose a game until the NFC Championship game. So if you make a really bad trade, you make a trade for Christian McCaffrey, he's 100% in. You like in games that he starts. Now I know the KC game he played, but in games that he started, the only one that they lost was the Philly game. They kind of covered their ass with that too.
Yeah, I mean, them being as well coached as they are, they're able to pick up and hide some of those deficiencies with their drafts because they've missed, with first rounders on top of Trey Lance. The Solomon Thomas one. Trying to think of another pick. I mean, then they hit the home run with Bosa. Find great value in Deebo Samuel in the day 2 pick with him, and George Kittle, who's one of the best tight ends, was what, a 5th rounder or a 4th rounder. And so they continually find players on day 2, day 3 that are
and
all
the system and all that.
But their system, their coaching staff, which DeMeco came from, but their coaching staff with Kyle Shanahan is just fantastic top to bottom. So they're able to cover up those errors with other players on their roster and with coaching and with scheme.
And I also think the Jets too, like it's the same coaching. I don't know if Robert Saleh is a good coach or not. I have no idea. Like I like him. I'm a fan, but I don't know whether he's a good coach or not. I think it's too early to say, but I think that's just straight up good GMing to where you can miss on a quarterback at 2 and still put yourself in position to where, oh, damn, we're a quarterback away. We're going to trade for Aaron Rodgers. And I guess that's what happens when, first of all, you trade Jamal Adams and get what you got for Jamal Adams.
Seattle.
And then you draft Garrett Wilson, you draft Sauce Gardner, you draft Breece Hall, you do all the other stuff that they've done. I think Saleh deserves credit for developing Quinnen Williams. You drafted Quinnen Williams and then developed, although that wasn't the same regime, but that's kind of like another lesson too, where, if CJ Stroud doesn't work out, there's ways in which, this isn't Jamarcus Russell. This isn't the Sam Bradford thing. You're not setting your franchise back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And they continue to just have surrounded that roster with talent on both sides. And like you said, coaching up the players. I mean, Quinnen Williams, it took him a few years, but they coached him up and brought him up to be one of the best defensive tackles out there. And then they have other players that are not big name guys that you would think of, but when you start looking at the Bryce Huss and the John Franklin Myers, and they drafted Jermaine Johnson last year and then Will McDonald this year, just continually stacking up those players. And, next thing you know, you just have a good solid roster top to bottom. And so that's why I think that's a really good team to look out for this year. Joe Douglas, he's got a good path going forward so far with GM role over there. He's had a few missteps, but for the most part, he's been doing very well. DJ Reed's another good player over there. I mean, they have some really good, sneaky, good players that are not costing a lot of money. And that's where teams really build out a roster, is finding those plus EV type players that are either day 2, day 3 picks or are on mid-tier contracts that outperform them, and they just seem to have quite a few players on that path right now.
Sean just said this. I want to get your take on this because this is like right up your alley. The Texans scouting staff has some Patriot stink on it. How do you feel about that?
I don't think that's the case. I mean, Lipper's got some New England ties, but I think with Mosaic and a couple other guys getting promoted this year, I think that New England stink's about gone and out the door. I think Caserio is his own man, and I think bringing in DeMeco and this staff will kind of just continue to meld their own process, their own scouting process, and start bringing in players that they've identified that fits the Houston scheme and not what they saw in New England, not what they saw in San Francisco, and fits what they want here. So 2 years ago, I probably would have agreed with that sentiment a little bit, but with the promotions that they've had in the scouting department with the player personnel side, I would tend to more disagree with that comment today.
I want to ask Caserio this question. Like, I don't know when the media availability is going to be on Wednesday. It's still TBD. I got the email. But but I want to go ask him, like, if it's past 2:30, at what point does a scouting department evaluate their evaluation? And I'm not saying that as like a damning, like, oh, well, y'all have got to go type of thing. But like in any area like of business, like a lot of times, like let's say you hire someone and that hire ends up not happening, and then you hire the next guy and it ends up not happening, or you're trying to enforce like this type of philosophy and it doesn't work out. Like when it comes to like the interior offensive line, and it comes to bringing back Justin Britt for another year and drafting Kenyon Green, at what point do you evaluate your evaluation? And that's not even like a position dedicated type of question. It kind of is, but like it's more like just like a philosophical, like life type of thing, which Caserio kind of likes to talk about. Like I do wonder, like at what point you kind of evaluate your evaluation of players.
Self-evaluation. Yeah, I mean, you got to go. Like using the Kenyon Green example, you go back and you reevaluate what your process was that led you to having him as one of your top rated players on your board. And is it something we missed? Obviously his performance was great in college. Is there something we missed in the interviews? Is there something we missed from the psychological and mental side of this that's leading him to not be able to function like we need him in the NFL? Or is it how we're coaching him? How does he need a different brand of coaching? Maybe that's something he didn't have last year, and this maybe Chris, the new O-line coach, Chris Strausser,
yeah.
Maybe he can
try to give me his audio. I was like, for what?
Maybe he can unlock it. It's still early in the process, but you got to go back through your process and figure out, okay, what got us to this point, and where did we deviate from what we intended to do? Did they make an exception for Kenyon Green on some level? And that's what's causing this situation. Like just what is our process? Did we follow that process? And if we did, is there something we need to change in our process?
Did we miscalculate that this team was going to do this, like in front of us in the draft, like all that? And quite frankly, like, look, I don't know when Kenyon Green would have gone in the draft had they not taken him. I think he was
it's all over the board.
Yeah, I think he was at least a second round pick. So, sometimes it's as simple as, sometimes you just charge it to the game, and it was kind of a problem. So I don't know. But
you fall in love with players. You see something that I don't know if it's trying to be the smartest person in the room, and maybe they thought they saw something in Kenyon Green that other teams or other folks didn't see, and they latched onto that, and it just kind of clouded their judgment. Who knows? But there's some, if Kenyon Green ends up not working out for the Texans, then that's a perfect example of the self-evaluation and figure out where the team went wrong, whether it's staff, whether it's scouting, whether it's coaching, whether it's the interview process, the draft process, whether it's all the way back to watching tape, what happened. And that definitely does happen. I can't imagine it wouldn't happen. So yeah, that's a fascinating topic, and you can really just dive deep into something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like an "I got you" question. Like it's anything.
Every team is going to have.
It's a radio. Like, hey, what'd you like? How did you evaluate like this like type of segment, or like anything? Like, it's because the reality is, when you're cutting somebody, like, you're cutting them because your best case scenario, or what you hope for the most, did not play out.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're making cut down days, like a lot of times, like it's like a low risk, like high reward type of thing. But when you're cutting guys, it's because it didn't work out. So like, how do you evaluate that? And I think there's probably something tangible, and maybe not as tangible as Nick would like actually like tell. But yeah, I think it's definitely a thing. And the reality is, and I've said this 100 times, I thought Kenyon Green was the safest pick they could have made. Now, I'm not a guard expert, and I'm not like anything like that, but I thought, if you're taking a guard, it's, hey man, this guy must be ready to go.
Guard in the first round, yeah.
I mean, it's not sexy, but it's like, hey, we're good to go.
Who else went in that? It was Zion Johnson, who was another guard that went in the first round.
Yeah, and there was I think they wanted Jamison Williams if I had to guess and just like gather the information that I gather. I would think that they wanted Jamison, but I don't know. I mean, some people would say, "Well, you lucked out." I don't know that I can say Jamison Williams isn't a good player right now. I can say that he can't stay healthy and he might be kind of a bozo, but I don't know like whether I can say he's not a good player now.
Didn't know the gambling rules, he says.
Yeah, well, kind of tough, man. Kind of tough, man.
Yeah. But
Well, I'm gonna listen to DeMeco Ryans. I don't know if you got to go or not. I'm gonna listen to DeMeco. You want to listen to DeMeco?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So DeMeco had his press conference today. I got the I got it. You know, I'm the podium critic. So, you know, the day after DeMeco speaks or announces CJ Stroud, let's just start and pause and react to DeMeco Ryans. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Keep the comments rolling. Texans gotta cut it down tomorrow. Let's hear from DeMeco. Look at that walk up. Class.
Tell us about the importance of
Damn, McLean's in the building too. Look at that. It must be important.
being able to run the ball and use multiple backs to help a rookie quarterback.
When it comes to running the football, that's that's what I believe in. That's how you win games. You have to run the ball, right, to keep defensive honest, right, so you can allow yourself to throw the ball and take shots when they are available. But it all starts with the O-line and the backs, right, having a quality O-line that can move, right, cause displacement on the defensive line, and also the backs who can finish, right, make runs that are blocked for 3, can they turn it into 6-7 yard gains? So it's important to have all those factors in place, O-line, backs, right, all in sync, being able to run the football.
Man, first question: importance of running the football. What's going on here? McLean just randomly thinking that. What are we doing here, Cap?
Oh, that was a softball toss up from McLean, in my opinion, because we've heard DeMeco talk about the running game over and over. So that was a slow pitch.
What? Yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of like, hey, CJ, like, what? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Here's Aaron Wilson now.
Is being so much roster turnover here and all over the league. What's the message to the guys as far as?
By the way, congrats on Aaron for them sources only being 4 minutes late from Garofalo. Actually, 5, I think.
Would you tell them maybe some of the people that are on the bubble or uncertain of their future?
Yeah, with the cuts that are coming up, it's a tough day, sensitive, right? It's a delicate situation for a lot of guys. But you want to tell guys just to keep working, right? Continue their dreams. Hopefully, they have opportunity to make another 53-man roster or make a practice squad. There is opportunity, all right, around the entire NFL to be able to make it, and that's my message to those guys. But with the group that we've had, guys that have been with us from OTAs, from training camp, and first thing first is I appreciate guys just their work ethic and just how much work those guys put in for us. I don't take that lightly. And guys have done a great job of what we asked them to do, asked them to work hard each and every day. Our guys did that. They didn't complain. They just worked. So it's a hard day. Over the next couple of days, it'll be a hard few days, right, having to let guys go because I know the work that these men have put in.
I wonder who's doing the releases. Like, is it Casario or is it DeMeco?
It's got to be DeMeco, right? I think he probably would want to. I think DeMeco's the kind of guy that would want to, though.
Yeah, because like when it was Hard Knocks, O'Brien did them instead of Rick Smith.
Yeah.
And so maybe DeMeco does it. Hopefully he doesn't tell somebody they can be a coach again. It's Brooks.
We're still going through that evaluation process of figuring out the roster, so that'll be ongoing over the next couple of days.
When you all do make the cuts, there are going to be a lot of players that are going to be available that are going to be cut from other teams. How will you all evaluate if some of those players will fit this team?
We're always looking to improve our roster. If that's someone who was at another club, if it's someone that can improve our roster, we're always looking to do that. And I think that's an ongoing process throughout the entire season. You're always looking to better the back end of your roster, and that just drives the competition to make guys in front of them better. So that's always something we'll be pushing for. when it
Keeping 2 quarterbacks versus 3. I'm actually kind of interested by this.
Okay.
Because what's the difference between calling Case Keenum off the couch and keeping Case Keenum around and just keeping him hot and ready?
comes to the quarterback position, it depends on which 3 do you have. We feel really strongly about our 3 quarterbacks, and I think we have really good quarterback room. So we feel good about all 3 of those guys.
When you cut guys, do you tell them you'd like to a good chance you'd like to bring them back on practice squad if they clear waivers?
If that's true, we'll tell guys that.
It's
if we
true,
have an opportunity
obviously,
for the
McClain.
practice squad for
Good
them.
God.
If not, we just want to be honest with guys.
Is he going to tell it to someone he doesn't think it to? What if he just told everyone, hey, we're going to bring you back in the practice squad?
Guys in this, very hard situation, right? You want to be honest with guys. If we have a practice squad availability, we'll let those guys know. If not, we'll let them know that as well.
Tight end and the fullback situations, you guys like to use that. How do you assess that group after training camp? Obviously, there was some bang-ups there. How do you, after your situation right now, how would you evaluate that group?
Our tight ends are coming along really well. I'm really pleased with where everyone
Take
is
that,
in
Cap.
the group. Tight ends and fullbacks feel like we have
He says the tight ends are coming along really well. AKA, I think he thinks Andrew Beck's a tight end.
a really good group there.
Coach, ever since OTAs, you've been talking a lot about competition at a lot of different positions. With cut down day tomorrow,
That's
what
Cody.
has been your evaluation about the cornerback group? And it seems like there might be
Cornerbacks.
The guys competed in the cornerback room a lot. There's a lot of quality players there. Guys competed, and we'll see where we end up over the next few days. But I love the way those guys competed every day. Right? It was challenging for a lot of the guys, but they fought through and they pushed and they got better. Credit to our coaches who worked with those guys. They did a really good job with them.
Did Cam Dantzler have a chance to impact or show impact during his short practices? Because I assume he showed an impact in the game on Sunday.
It was fun to see Cam go out, and make a big play for us there to end that game. It's a fun moment for the entire team.
What if Cam Dantzler killed Desmond King? What if Cam Dantzler that interception just killed
That
Desmond?
was like, okay, that's it. We're good now.
All right, bye, Des.
Right, to end the game there. And Cam had only been with us for a few days, so it's encouraging to see his talent. He's played in the league. He's an NFL corner, so he has the ability to play in this league.
How much does it change? I know you talked about it once last week. All the cuts on one day. What do you guys have to do? I mean, because you're not even you're focusing on your own team, but now you've got all the people that are available on one day. How much does that change what you guys do from trying to maybe look at other talented places?
It takes a collective effort, right? From our scouting department, they've been doing an excellent job of looking at other rosters, other teams, trying to kind of predict who may be released and if those guys can, help add value to our roster. So it takes a team working together when it comes to that. It's not just because the coaches are focused on prepping for games, So having Nick and his staff, the way they work, they've been outstanding. Right? They've done a really good job of knowing the entire league, not just knowing our roster, but knowing where we can get better, knowing where we can add depth. So taking that collective approach has been really good for us.
Because since Kenyon Green was drafted, he's been a big story because he's from here at A&M. Could you talk about his situation now, especially in light of him playing with the twos last night?
Yeah, with the offensive line situation, Dieter, we see he was the guy that deserved more reps, so we gave him some of the reps, seeing how he looked with the first team. Kenyon has done a great job of, battling through. He's dealing with some things. He's battled through a lot, and it's been tough on him, but I'm proud of Kenyon and what he's battled through that everyone may not know, but tough kid, right, going through a lot, but he tried to go every single day, and he pushed it for us, and proud of his effort and what he put out there for us. Yeah, he's been dealing with multiple things, and I'm proud of Kenyon.
Take a few more.
When Tank Dell's work at kick return, punt return, he had a nice return the other day. How does that factor in how you see him as a player? Can he handle all those roles as a rookie? And how you look at the rest of the roster as you make these decisions?
When you look at Tank, he's a guy who's
I mean, can you handle all those roles as a rookie? You go back and catch the punt. Like what? Come on, Brooks. What? He's not learning like a new position.
Just don't have
Go
Mechie
back and
returning
catch the
punts,
damn punt. Come on.
except for
As I
Mechie.
said multiple times, he's been an explosive playmaker. Just how do you get the ball in his hands, whether it's at the receiver position or returner position? Tank is the guy who can make plays for us all over the field. So whatever Tank can handle, right, that's what he'll do for us.
Coach, when you were with San Francisco, you were part of the evaluation process and making recommendations for players to be on the team to the head coach. Now you're the head coach. What is that process for you now to be able to listen or hear from your position coaches, your coordinators, and things like that?
It's important for me as we build a team, it's important to have input from everyone. And no one knows the players more than their position coaches. They spend the most time with those guys, so they know, right? They know those guys, and so I rely heavily on their opinions of what they think about the guys. And we just take a, holistic approach of where does it work for our team, right? And
Holistic.
but coaches' input is very valuable. I don't take it lightly. Even with the draft process, free agent process, and also with the final roster cut down, coaches will always have input as long as I'm around because I know they put a lot of work in and no one cares more about their position than that actual position coach. So I think they're very vital to us, right? Seeing it from every angle we could possibly see it, having the coaches, the scouts, myself, everyone, Nick, looking at it. So we have a really cool approach here, and I think it works out because we get all the information that we need to try to make the best decision for our team.
When you go back and you look at the tape from last night, how impressive was Xavier Hutchinson, a guy who hadn't played special teams with him and gave his all last night?
That's all we asked for from Hutch is continue to get better, work hard. That's what he's been doing, and it showed. Like, it was good to see it finally.
Look at the tape.
Right, come to fruition last night with him making some big time plays for us. So it's good for Hutch to see. He just keeps getting better each week, and that's all we ask of him. And happy with where he's headed.
The waiver wire, by virtue of last season's record, how much is that an opportunity potentially when you can kind of look the way you draft with the waiver wire to look at guys?
Waiver wire.
I don't like that question.
As we look at acquiring players, I think
Thrown out.
it's done in multiple ways, whether it's the waiver wire, draft, free agent, signings, whatever it may be. However you can improve
Waiver
your
wire.
team, that's what we're going to try to do, try to find the best guys that we can find for our team. And that's our job, to make sure we put the best team out there, so we'll try to find those guys any way possible. Okay.
With it for CJ, it's preseason, but to
God, man, he's tired of answering questions, bro.
pass touchdown, they kind of finished preseason.
PR said a couple more.
He's ready
I
to
think,
dip,
I
bro.
think it's really important for him to get that touchdown, right? It's something you've been yearning for a long time, and you're trying to make all these plays to get in the end zone, and to see it finally happen, you could just see the happiness and the kind of big sigh of relief, like, yeah, we finally got in. So it was fun to see the energy, see the excitement from everyone on the sideline. I think everybody was happy, for CJ, all right, to make that play, him and Nico. So he needed that, right? And we all needed to see him make that happen, and it was a cool moment for our entire team.
What about the best when he threw was incomplete? What do you think about his performance on that long throw?
Yeah, that's where CJ, he excels. Whether it's the deep passes, all different levels, he can place the ball exactly where he wants it. Right, so excellent ball placement with the deep throw, and we just expect to start connecting on those a little bit more.
All right, last one for us. Jordan Murray played his most last night. What did you see from him through that training camp?
Dang, asking about tight
Yeah,
end.
Jordan's been improving in training camp,
And Brooks.
and he did a good job last night,
deep on the
making
roster.
most of the opportunities that he was given.
Hey,
So
brother.
it was cool to see Jordan show up. All right, thank you guys. Y'all have a great day.
All right, walk off. Appreciate you. All right, so yeah, a lot of people thinking like the Kenyon Green dialogue was a little bit interesting, talking about the injury and stuff. Like, are they trying to trade Kenyon Green? It wouldn't shock me. Like a Kenyon Green trade tomorrow for like a fifth or something, like would not shock me. Or maybe like another team's disappointing, first round pick or something. Like it wouldn't shock me. It was interesting the way that he kind of talked about him. We're proud of him. Proud of what? Like, I mean,
It was more like Okay, you're going to have to sit down for a bit. We're proud of what you've accomplished, but you're going to have to sit down for a bit. It was almost like the pat on the head, kind of, good job, son, but sit down. And it kind of like seemed like he was resigned to the fact that he may not be contributing to start the year. So trade wouldn't shock me, but I think it's just going to be something where he's just sat down and mental reset time.
Mental reset. Let's get through the final questions before we get out of here. H-Town's Ultimate. I'm sick and tired of Bulls on Parade. They need to update the music. You feel me? They've gotten rid of football time in Houston with Clay Walker. So
they've shaken up the music selection at game day as well quite a bit.
For sure. Logan Taylor asks, what's the most surprising cut so far? I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah, we kind of touched on earlier. I think Desmond King was probably the biggest surprise for me so far. Kirksey was not so much as a surprise. And then Roy Lopez, we talked about, was more of just unfortunate timing with the injury. Definitely just curious to see what happens with the back end of the cornerback group, back end of the safety group, back end of the linebackers and tight ends.
Yeah, I would say the most surprising for me was King, although once you actually try to make sense of it, maybe it shouldn't have been as surprising.
Yep.
The Kirksey you could say is surprising just because it happened this late in the game and you started to wonder, like, is there something? But to answer the question, I would say King. Kaz says, I liked King's better than how Thomas played, especially after the New Orleans preseason game. King showed up better and Thomas didn't. I don't know that they agree with that. I think they like Thomas. With the cap space created from cuts, what do you think they should do? Trade for, sign a vet, a position need. I think a combination of everything. I think they'll adjust that accordingly. Joe Blue, Landry, how was your fantasy football draft? Who was your first pick?
Uh-oh.
So it was kind of weird. The league is interesting. It's 12 teams. We only start one running back, so you can have strategy. You have the multiple flexes, blah, 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 blah. Fourth pick for me, I took Travis Kelce. I know that sounds crazy. I would not have passed on Christian McCaffrey, but McCaffrey went before me. I just don't feel like you can duplicate Travis Kelce. I feel like he has like that floor of like a wide receiver one, and it can't be duplicated because of the tight end position. So I drafted Travis Kelce, number 4 overall. Now, the problem was the quarterback run happened, and I was way out of it. And in our league, quarterback touchdowns count as 6. So I'm kind of in a tough spot. So 11 quarterbacks went. I took the 12th quarterback. My 12th quarterback ended up taking 3 throughout the draft, though, just to swing for the fences. Last year, I took Jared Goff with the last pick, ended up playing off nicely. 12th quarterback picked was Deshaun Watson. So I have Deshaun Watson on my fantasy team. Not my ideal scenario, but that's where I'm at right now.
How did you end up with pick number 4? I thought you were like in the finals or something last year.
Our draft resets every year.
Oh,
so
okay.
You don't know when you're picking until you're picking.
Oh, that's cool.
So we put 12 names in a hat. I draft as the commissioner, pick one. They pick. They go up and pick their pick, and then they draft the pick. So you don't know until you're actually picking.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, yeah, it's kind of like one of those wild-ass things. But Travis Kelce, I think I'll be okay. Don't know. Yeah. CJ is good. I hate that the media hates him. Let's go number 7. I feel like the media loves CJ Stroud. I don't see any hate for CJ Stroud. I feel like he's getting loved.
There's like a little batch of Twitter that's still hanging on that Mills train, but man, everything I've seen has all been positive on CJ.
Yeah, I feel like the media loves him very much. CF got gas. Quintariano's block on Pierce, big run was legit. I think Quintariano's nice. I'm probably too high on him. I think he's going to have 3 touchdowns this year. And I think he's going to be a good, solid backup tight end. I actually don't hate the tight end depth as much as you do. And Lopez and Stutes, like everyone I interact with on the reg hates it. I actually think it's going to be better once the games actually come around between Beck, Quintariano, and Schultz. I'm not as concerned about it.
That that play, just you have to go back and watch it. Everything was executed beautifully on that. I mean, Tunsil had a reach block, and then he went searching for a second man. Dieter and Patterson do it up on the nose tackle, and then Shaq Mason just took his guy out, and then Catoriano took his defensive end out and just created this gigantic cutback lane on a counter for Pierce. It was just, I was watching it this morning. It was just a very well executed play from all across the board, not just Catoriano.
I just think he's kind of like the anti-Brevin Jordan in that I don't think his like body and or like his skill set and stuff, it like drives people crazy. But the fact that he could miss time like he did last year without playing at all, and then come in, look like he knew what he was doing, be in the right place, and do all that type of stuff. I just feel like Quitoriano is just, I guess pro is the right way to say it. That might be a little bit dramatic, but I just think he's like a professional football player that, and he honestly, he plays better when the games are going than he does in practice. Like Brevin Jordan, like you'll watch him in practice sometimes.
He was the other way around. Jordan was a practice
around, and Quitoriano is like the complete opposite, where you look at him in practice, you're like, what the hell is up with this guy? And then he goes in the game and he's actually ready to play. Does it sound like he's moving on from Kenyon Green? Talking about the DeMeco Ryans thing. I don't know that it sounded like that. It was kind of interesting. Like what he was making it very clear he was proud of him. Are they trying to trade him? Because when you make it clear that he has an injury, it almost makes me feel like you're going to have conversations with teams and be like, yeah, well, he's battling. I know you watched the tape and he obviously sucks, but he's battling a left shoulder injury.
And you can now trade players on injured reserve as well in case the team decides to put him on IR. They can still trade him.
Yeah. So who knows? Who knows with what's going on with that? Glenn agrees. National media loves CJ. Just not that fond of the Texans. I actually think they kind of like the Texans.
They're coming around, man. They're coming around, and like one of my favorite podcasts, the Athletic Football Show. They finally have started talking about the Texans again, and they vowed to not talk about them for 2 years until they started showing life and they started talking about it again. So I think just the narrative is out there that, the team arrow is pointing back in the right direction. And I think they'll continue to get more media coverage as time goes on through this year and into next year.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. It was cool to see him on a Fox broadcast. I know that's kind of like low level, and you're talking about, Perry and stuff like that on the back end, but it was kind of nice to see him on a Fox broadcast. So I actually kind of liked it. Terry asks, who's dumb enough to trade for Green? I mean, a team that
there's so many teams that would trade for a first round talent.
Yeah,
player. I mean, they love
change
that
of scenery type of stuff for sure.
There's so many teams that.
Why did the Cowboys trade a fourth for Trey Lance?
There's so many teams that think, oh, I can fix him. I can make that work. He's got all the traits there. I just let me get my hands on him. So, man, there's too many teams that are egotistical to think that they can make it work.
And I think sometimes you can.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you can. Who knows? I mean, I don't think it's like the craziest thing to think that you can fix Kenyon Green. Cap, great to hear from you, my friend. Great to hear from you, my friend.
Holly and Avery doing well?
Doing well. Right down the hall. Good sleep schedule.
All right.
Diaper change, all that. So a little bit more fussy, but all good. Back on the radio tomorrow, so it's gonna be fun. Got the 53 going, and everything's good. Tell the people where they can find the work. Sound a little bit more excited than it's kind of bored the hell out of me with that one.
Yeah, no, I definitely more writing now, just with the different time and family dynamics. So capandtrade.football is the website. You can go there. You can subscribe to the newsletter. It'll hit straight to your inbox. I usually send it to the inbox before I post it out to the social. So, you'll get it first. There's a lot of good insight. I know Landry doesn't like charts and stuff, but there's a lot of film in there.
Yes, I do. I don't like draft charts.
Yes. I'm really focusing in on data and film combo information this year. So be a lot of that going on. And, I'm just excited to be able to continue to get some kind of imaginative outlet out there on my thoughts on the team. So that's where you can find it, capandtrade.football. It's free. You can upgrade to a paid subscription if you want to contribute and help out that front, but it's free and hope everybody enjoys it.
Cap, appreciate you. I'll holler
man.
at you later.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. The man, the legend, the myth, all that. Texans Cap, my buddy, my friend. Appreciate you for coming through. Appreciate you for coming through as well. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans daily digital content. Thanks to Cap for coming on here, giving me his elite insight. Follow his work at Texans Cap. Follow Cody Stutes, all that type of stuff. Digital game is popping. There's a lot of new faces, but the cream of the crop is still the cream of the crop. And no matter what happens when it comes to this Texan stuff, you already know we are all in this together. Promise this JJ is going to raise up by Friday. Appreciate you for coming through. This has been the Locker Room.
Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We #1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.